This month, we've talked a lot about the nervous system, and I plan to end this by highlighting restorative yoga and the many benefits the nervous system gets by practicing this type of yoga. There are so many types of yoga, and in many of them, we practice legs up the wall and reap many of the benefits from this pose. In restorative yoga, you spend a longer amount of time in each pose. It's not like a vinyasa class, for example, where the focus is more on flowing from one pose to another, right? Finding strength in those transitions, building power. And this difference helps us turn off that sympathetic nervous system and replenish our parasympathetic nervous system, which, if we think of it in terms of the muscle relationships, right? The opposing, say the quads and the hamstrings, these nervous systems are very similar, right? The opposing, relax, or fight and flight, basically, right? If you really boil it down. And so when the sympathetic kicks on, in flight or flight kicks on, when that turns off, the parasympathetic, the rest and digest, takes back over as that adrenaline rush subsides. Again, as we've discussed the importance of having a balance of both systems, and due to lifestyle, sometimes we need to replenish our parasympathetic system. Supported child's pose is a great pose, and one that is sometimes comforting because it's prone, it's on the belly. That can be really calming. If someone has neck issues, I would caution them with keeping the head turned and use a block at the end of the bolster so that they can drape in a more neutral position. And with restorative yoga, you're in the pose for a lot longer, and it's just very, very relaxing. And so it helps us to get out of that fight or flight. Sometimes when we're particularly stressed, child's pose or other prone or more closing off poses can be calming. And maybe on those days, for certain people, they begin their practice this way. But we can't forget to balance our poses, even in restorative yoga. So a nice countering pose is supported bound angle. And there are so many versions and variations, as you can see here. You can open the arms, which I really like because then it helps to counter that closing off of the heart and the chest. Really reach the arms out. But instead of actively pressing, we would just relax them. And some people just need longer to allow their bodies to come into a pose. And sometimes, for these reasons, restorative yoga is a great fit. It's also just really nice for the nervous system and sometimes just helps us kind of turn off our brains, right? And really be aware. And when we hold a pose, I find longer and more relaxed, sometimes our muscles are able to respond in a different way than if we are quickly transitioning from one pose to another.